welcome to the Cambridge OurUni project. My name is Anna and I am a first year student studying English at Clare College, Cambridge. I started this project with the hopes of making information easily and readily accessible to prospective applicants, a sharing of honest information and helpful advice from students for students. This is why the project is called OurUni, because it is made from a collective of the student body. It is also called this because I strongly believe in widening participation at Cambridge. It is our university as state school students as much as it is anybody else's. Coming from a state school, access is deeply important to me. I want to offer a helping hand to students like me who otherwise would not get as much support as they deserve. It is important to note that this project is not affiliated with Cambridge University itself and is entirely independently run by students. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who has participated in the creation of this video. It has been made during lockdown, so please keep that in mind when viewing. I really hope you find this video useful, and please do let us know if there is anything else in the future that we could do that would be helpful for your applications.
Hiya, I'm Lottie and I'm studying Asnac at Queen's. In case you don't know, Asnac is short for Anglo-Saxon, Norse and Celtic, so we're studying the history, language and literature of the early Middle Ages in Britain and Scandinavia. Cambridge has the only Asnac course, so that was an important deciding factor for me. Also, I really wanted to do supervisions. I felt like that would be a really cool and exciting way to learn. I love having like academic discussions and that sort of thing. And also I love the city. I've been here before and it's so beautiful. I really wanted to live here. I hope I'm right in saying this. With contact hours, we have 1 hour a week for history papers and 2 hours a week for language papers. And all of the papers are optional, so you can choose which ones you want to do. So you can do almost all history or almost all language. So you have quite a lot of control over your contact hours. And then you also have a 1 hour supervision every week. With the workload, there's definitely a lot to do. I don't think anyone at Cambridge would ever say that they haven't got a lot to do, but it's definitely manageable. For me, the thing that really takes up a chunk of my time is writing my weekly essay for my supervision. Every week you write an essay about something that you may not know anything about, so you have to read all of the materials, learn about it, and then write your essay. And it's doable. It takes me like 4 hours, maybe 5, depending on how well I'm concentrating when I'm working. It's achievable. You'll be fine. The piece of advice I'd give to someone applying now would be don't try to be tactical with your application. There aren't magic words you can drop into your personal statement or at interview. Don't research your interviewer's work and then try to mention it. Don't stress about what you wear to interview. Don't stress about what college you apply to. There are no tactics. Everyone says it, but just be yourself. You are enough for Cambridge as you are. Also, if like me, you're a state school student who is worried about private school students getting more support, I realise that is scary, but it doesn't take all of your chances away. Still definitely do it. It's still very achievable for you. Just remember to do all of the preparation that you might not necessarily be being told to do. If you've got to take a test as part of your application, you can find practice tests online. Do all of them. Get yourself as prepared as you can. It's going to be fine. Before I came here, my sister gave me the very solid piece of advice that was just do all of your reading. It doesn't feel like you have to, but you actually do have to. So do all of your reading that you're supposed to do, even though nobody's checking if you've done it. And also don't get into the habit of not going to a certain lecture, even if you feel like you learn nothing from the lecture. Still go, you'll regret not going. I was definitely surprised by how much there was to do when it came to applying. I don't think anybody would disagree with me when I say that there's more to do than there is for other universities. And also as a state school student, I sort of thought that private school students were probably getting more support than I was, and I was quite worried about that. That being said, all of the application stuff was definitely very achievable. I could easily fit it in around my studies and school and that kind of thing. And also I had a really lovely time at interviews, so that was an absolute high point of the application experience.
Hi, my name's Kit, and I'm a second year studying Anglo-Saxon, Norse, and Celtic at St Catherine's College. I did Asnac more or less by accident because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to apply for English or for history. So I looked through the course listings on the Cambridge website, and alphabetically first was Asnac, and I thought, aha, here's a chance to do both English and history. And I'd always been interested in early literature and medieval literature. And early history, and in particular folklore and mythology, and how that develops and reflects our society. And Asnac's the perfect chance to combine all of that with a little bit of language as well. So the easiest answer to the question why Cambridge is because Cambridge is the only place where you can do anything like Asnac. But more widely, I thought that I would really enjoy supervision style teaching, which is when you write an essay and then once a week meet one-on-one for an hour with an academic who is an expert in that field to talk through your essay and the subject that it's on more widely. I thought that's a style of learning that I would really enjoy. The application process was very stressful, of course, it always is. But actually, I think I found it reversed to most people because I wasn't scared at all of the interview because I quite like talking and it didn't really feel scary. I was much more worried about how I would come across on paper. Most of it was just waiting, to be honest. Contact hours for Asnac can vary a lot depending on which paper you choose. So in first year, there's a choice of 10 papers, which are literature and language for Old English, Old Norse, Old Irish, and Middle Welsh. And then there's the 4 histories, which are Scandinavian, pre-conquest England, Brittonic, which is Brittany and Wales, and Cornwall and Lowland Scotland, and then Gaelic, which is Irish, Highland Scots, Manx. And then there's Latin, this particular type of Latin spoken and written in the insular world, which is what we call the British Isles, basically. And then paleography and codicology, which is the study of manuscripts and books. If you're doing literature and language, that's 2 contact hours a week, 1 lecture on the literature and 1 language class. Histories is just 1. And paleography is 2. There's a lecture and then a workshop with manuscripts themselves. On top of which you normally have 1 supervision a week. If you're very unlucky, you have 2. But it will be no more than 10, 11 or 12. The workload for Asnac is heavier than most people think it's going to be, certainly for the humanities side of things, partially because you're learning up to 4 or 5 languages at once, and then essays tend to be a little bit longer for Asnac than they are for some of the other essay subjects. Because most of your time is going to be spent reading, maybe a little bit of translation and language work sprinkled on top. Never have I not found it manageable though, so it isn't something that I would worry about. So a big piece of advice I'd give before the application process is that you don't need to be perfect. If you know everything already, you're going to be incredibly boring to teach and just no fun. So it's really important to know that actually you don't need to be perfect. You're allowed to make mistakes. There's no special perfect formula for how to write the application. You just kind of want to be you. Don't try and say you've done things that you haven't or you're a person that you're not. It's okay to have specialties and to branch off into things. It's such a wide subject that you can't possibly cover everything. So it's absolutely all right to decide there's one thing that I'm particularly interested in and this is what brings me joy. And then to kind of pursue that. And also discover new interests. Discover something else that totally amazes you and you find utterly wonderful. And it's okay to pursue those and focus on what you're interested in. And that's the wonder of Asnac as a subject, is it's a subject for people who love the topic area. And only us. So you'll always find people who are joyful about their specific thing. And it's okay to share that and to embrace that. The one thing I really want to say is don't be afraid to apply. Just try it. There are a wonderful network of people to help and answer questions. And you're never going to know unless you try. And Asnac can be scary, I know, because it's new and you won't have studied it at A level. But it is so wonderfully diverse and full of people who are just incredibly, incredibly excited by their subject. And it's such a wonderful community to come into. So I cannot say enough how much I want you to apply.
Hello, I'm Emily and I'm doing Spanish and Russian ab initio, which was what they call starting Russian from scratch here at Clare.
I'm Alex, I'm doing French and Russian ab initio, also at Clare College. What I particularly liked about languages was how interdisciplinary it is. So as well as doing all of the kind of grammar work and stuff, we also get to do a lot of literature and history and politics. So you can really take it in lots of different directions.
Yeah, and it's all connected with the language itself. And so you come up with this amazing skill and you've studied so many other degrees. I think what really appealed to me about Cambridge was the Russian side of it, because it moves really quickly, and so you're combining language and literature right from the start. And so there's not like loads of verbs for the first 8 weeks. You're immediately in there with like history and politics and loads of set texts, and it's just really great.
I think what really attracted me to Cambridge as well was the collegiate atmosphere. So everyone lives within a college, and that's where you get some of your academic stuff as well. And it's a really nice atmosphere to meet other students and to get to know different people.
We both do lots of societies as well, which is really fun.
And there's a lot of that goes on within the college.
Yeah.
It wasn't as daunting as I was expecting it to be. So I remember a lot of people saying, oh, it's going to be really tough applying to Cambridge and you're going to really struggle with it. But I would say if people say that to you, don't be kind of put off by it. I definitely remember when I was at interview, everyone was really helpful about saying what they wanted from us, and the interviewers were really nice and friendly. So don't be too scared by the prospect of applying to Cambridge.
And I think also doing an Oxbridge application really makes it easier for the rest of year 13, because you get your application done at the beginning and then you can focus on your A-levels, which are ultimately the most important bit. I think I have about 13 or 14 hours a week. So I have about 5 hours of lectures and then lots of classes and a couple of supervisions for each thing. So I have one of my favourite hours in the week is the grammar supervision for Russian, where we just go over all of the things that are difficult that we haven't gone over in anything else, and it's just so useful because you get like 2 of you and 1 supervisor, and any problems you have are just sorted. It's great.
Definitely
a lot of, especially with an ab initio language, there's a lot of all the kind of grammar classes and stuff like that. But then with our other languages that we've studied at school already, you get to do a lot more of the kind of literature side of things, so you tend to have more lectures for that and fewer of the classes and stuff. I know things vary for different subjects, so if you're applying to do a different subject, you might end up with more or with fewer concept hours. There's quite a lot of work. I think especially with all the different grammar classes and things we have, each one tends to set some work to do for the next week. It does get quite heavy sometimes, but I think it's managed quite well, and it's set up so that it's the right amount to be doing.
I think there's also a really nice mix of like finite work and work that just has no end. So for essays you can do as much reading as you like, whereas there's lots of grammar work where they'll just say do this page, do this exercise, and so there's always different kinds of things that you can be doing, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing to do is remember that there's no point knowing a little bit about everything, because in an interview you'll have to talk about one thing in depth. So the more you know about one specific thing that really interests you, the better. So
if you are doing like extra reading around your subject, or some other kind of project or whatever, make sure it's something that really interests you, because your interviewers will be able to tell whether you're interested in it or not.
And they'll be so knowledgeable about it. You can actually genuinely enjoy your interviews if you go there and they're telling you all of their amazing knowledge about something that you are really interested in.
With the SAQ, when they ask for a picture of you, don't forget to put a good picture on there.
It's very true.
Because it ends up being your ID photograph on your card. So
don't embarrass yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we just want to say massive good luck with your applications, and remember that any work that you do to prep for it will be useful. Yeah. So don't worry.
And as we were saying earlier on, don't stress about it.
Yeah.
It's not as daunting as it seems, and I'm sure you will do really well.
Hi, my name's Ella. I go to Robinson College and I study education, policy and international development. I chose to study education because I think it's the most important thing there is to study. It affects our lives in so many ways. It could be so much better, but it's stuck in the past. Plus, it's fascinating to think about why we educate, whether going to school is the same as being educated, whether schools actually work for social justice. Got my big education book, like gender and education, ethnicity and education, inclusion. I want to be a teacher, and it won't help me, practically. It's really just theoretical. It's not a teaching degree, and it's perhaps helped me understand the school system better. I chose Cambridge. Well, for a few reasons. I just wanted something to challenge me. I also kind of wanted to prove that I could do it. I also thought, the people that go to Cambridge are going to be really passionate about education, and I want to be around those people. I like that we study such a broad set of educations, you know, philosophy and sociology, and there's psychology options. The application process for education was long, laborious, stressful, but I'm sure a lot of people would say that. Between year 12 and year 13 I was reading. There was an entrance test I had to do. I kind of just looking for, you know, critical engagement, opinion, kind of showing that you're interested and that you can write. All throughout the process I'd sort of sought guidance from, you know, whoever I could, and I'd reached out to colleges and for interview workshops for my school. I was very fortunate to know some people who either went or go to Cambridge who were able to give me advice. But please know that Cambridge or Oxford want to help. They have liaison officers that will happily come out or sort out a date to kind of run an interview workshop for an area, or come into a school and talk about applying to Oxbridge. Education has, like, officially 8 contact hours a week, so that's 4 hours of lectures, 1 for each paper we do, and 1 hour of seminar a week. But of course on top of that there's supervisions. It works out to 8 hours contact time a week, and then like 8 hours of supervisions officially over the term. There's reading before the lecture, there are essays, there's 2 essays for the papers that I'm taking. There's 2 essays per paper per term, so that's 8 essays a term. But it's also important to kind of go, and I learnt this very quickly, to kind of go, enough. You know, for me it's 6 o'clock, you started working at 9 this morning, stop. We're expected to work between 40 and 48 hours a week. They never want it to become too much. Stay passionate. That sounds really cheesy, but stay passionate. Keep reading, keep engaging with educational topics or whatever it is. Don't let the process make you lose your interest. It's not scary. It seems scary, but it's not. Even if you don't, you know, have the desired outcome, it was still great that you did it. It was still great that you read that book, or you went on that course, or you went to interview, you really tried. And I jumped feet first. You probably will feel like a bit of an imposter. I'm here and I still feel it. And this sounds very teacherly of me. Just try your best. We've got Ken Robinson's Creative Schools, Engines of Privilege, Britain's Private School Problem, Philosophy of Education by Nell Noddings. Education's a great subject. It's a small subject, but it's really great. There's like 40 of us throughout the year. You know, I didn't go to a private school, I'm not super rich or posh. That's just it. There is no kind. There's just interested people who work hard, people who have a passion. There are people who are different from you. There are people who are just like you.
Hi, I'm Danielle. I'm from Clare College and I'm studying education. I always wanted to study psychology, but I didn't feel like it was a perfect fit for me. So when I found out that Cambridge combined with education, I realised that was perfect for me, because I've always wanted to work with children, and like the part about psychology that I enjoyed the most is the educational part and like the human development part. In terms of the application process, I had to hand in my personal statement in October, and then I had a pre-interview assessment in November. I would say don't over-revise for that. I would say just do the past papers that they provide, and then maybe like a little bit of reading on topics that interest you, but don't stress about it. And then in December I had my interviews. They were 2 interviews back to back, and again it was on like personal statement, things that interest you. They gave us like a piece of reading to do beforehand that we then like spoke about in the interview. And then obviously you get the SAQ, which is like an additional personal statement for Cambridge, but it's not as long and it's not something to stress about again. So I would say just finding something that you're passionate about and you can discuss is the best option, rather than trying to read loads of information, just focus on like few subjects that you really enjoy. It would be beneficial for this subject maybe to have like some experience in this field, so like maybe like volunteering in a school or something. Not everyone does it and it's not necessary, like don't worry if you haven't, but the interviewers did say that was something that like set me apart from other candidates when I applied, so I'd say it's definitely a beneficial thing to do. So it's kind of difficult to say like what the normal contact hours are like, because obviously I'm in like COVID times, but at the moment we'll have about 1 hour of recorded lecture, although I'm not gonna lie, it tends to take me 2 or 3 hours to get through that 1 hour, and then we'll have a like 1 hour live session in which we discuss the lecture, and then on top of that we might have 1 or 2 supervisions a week. So in terms of the workload, it is completely manageable. So I'm just in my first term now, and I probably spend 40 to 45 hours a week doing work, including watching my lectures. And there's definitely time to go out, have fun, join societies, do all the things that you would do at any other uni that isn't Oxbridge. So I would say the best piece of advice I can give for education would be to, as you're going through the subject, and as you're going through your course, make notes of your own views and like make sure you're critically engaging with the work that is set, so like the lectures and the reading. So to be specific, by that I mean like putting your own opinions, so like, okay, this theory says this, but do you agree? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Or like, you know, this research found this, but what are the implications of this? Like, start from the beginning thinking about your thoughts, as it will then be a lot easier when it comes around to like writing essays and doing the exams.